So last week I made this video about this illogical fear that training for Jiu-Jitsu, you're going to build muscle too fast and it's just going to ruin your moves. And I've heard a few guys say this, even popular fitness influencer / PhD, Dr. Mike, he said this, like, hey, you don't want to train legs because you're not going to be able to do triangles, which is kind of retarded because there's a ton of guys with really big legs who can do triangles fine. If you can't do triangles with big legs, it's probably a hip mobility problem, or for most guys, it's like a technique problem. But so today's video, I want to touch on the fact how this is illogical for a couple reasons. It's number one, it's actually really hard to build muscle. If you actually try to build muscle, it never happens by accident. And the second thing is building muscle has a lot of benefits for strength training. Like, people like to shit on bodybuilding for being athletic. People are like, oh, don't train like a bodybuilder, train like an athlete. Or, you know, bodybuilding is awful for jiu-jitsu, and I disagree with that mainly. All right, and those are the two things I'm going to get into today. But if you're looking for some help getting strong, faster, improving your recovery, trying to keep injuries away, I have a one-on-one coaching program. If that's something you may be interested in, I'm going to put the link in the bio. Or not the link in the bio, this is YouTube. I'll put the link in the description. So let's talk about how hard building muscle is. Now, building muscle is, you have to train really hard. And the truth is, most people don't train that hard in the weight room. So what do I mean by train hard? So if you're gonna build muscle, you usually have to train close to failure. And failure is different from just being uncomfortable with burn, but really close to the point where you actually can't move the weight anymore. That's what true failure is. And then on top of that, you need to do a certain amount of sets to elicit a certain amount of volume. Now, I think the current science says about 6 to 10 working sets per muscle group, which is hard because you're going to train that hard, then you're going to recover, you're going to be sore, and you don't necessarily need that to do that as a jiu-jitsu athlete if you're just trying to just get strong and like kind of protect your body. And then the other end of the spectrum, you need to make sure that you have high quality sleep. A lot of people ignore. And then you have to usually eat a shitload of food, especially if you're a hard gainer, you're naturally skinny. You have to be eating like a ton of food. So building muscle like almost never happens by accident. So it's kind of silly to think like, hey, I don't want to do any strength training because I'm going to build too much muscle. Like, you know, I've always been one trying to build muscle, and believe me, I wish building muscle would be that easy. And I've been a personal trainer for a long time, and it's kind of, and to me, like in the video, I think in the video I said this, it's kind of like the female who like doesn't want to touch her weight because they don't want to get too bulky. Like, it's really hard to build muscle, and it's especially really hard to build muscle as a female. Like, building muscle is a good thing. Like I just said, it's challenging, but it's a very good thing. So when you build muscle, especially if you can build some mass around your most vulnerable joints, think like your knees, your shoulders, your ribs, your lower back, that tissue that can take on the impact of jiu-jitsu, which is why if you look at, like, say, American professional football, like, strength training and building muscle is a big part of that, because they need that, almost that pattern to be able to take those hits, because they know that, like, football is not just a contact sport, but a collision sport. So having more muscle is a benefit, and that's how you're going to stay healthy on the field. Jiu-jitsu is the same way. If you're a super scrawny guy, you don't have that much muscle, like honestly, you're just probably going to get hurt a lot more than a guy who has more muscle, or even a guy who has more fat on them, because you kind of need that impact. So building muscle from that standpoint is just going to keep you healthy on the mat. If you're on the mat more, you're definitely going to get better. You're going to get better much quicker. And then when you talk about being strong and having muscle, we talk about, and I just made a post about this before. It's like jiu-jitsu has a huge strength and muscular endurance component, and if you have bigger muscles, you're not always the case, but your potential to have better strength, have better muscular endurance is going to be way better. Because yeah, you can build your rope, you can build like your rope system, you can do your intervals, you can become more precise on the mat. But if you are really weak, what happens is every technique that you go for takes just like a large percentage of your strength, and you just end up gassing out really quick. Now, say you have a good amount of muscle and strength. Now that when you do techniques, it takes a low percentage of your max strength. So you can do that technique over and over and over again without really being super tired. And the third thing that I'm going to talk about, the benefit of building muscle, is like, people love to shit on bodybuilders, but they're really awesome at pushing themselves in the weight room and doing these really like grueling sets. They're trying to get so close to failure. They can handle so much fatigue and so much pain. And I think that's a huge benefit. And this is both like a like I would say a mental toughness thing, and basically contract your muscle for a long period of time. Where in jiu-jitsu do you need to basically have your muscles contracted for a long period of time? All the time, right? If you're trying to finish a choke, like you need to hold that sometimes for a long time, 20, 30 seconds to a minute. Like if you're trying to keep your guard closed, you need that muscular endurance to keep your guard closed, and your muscles might burn, right? And if you're not used to that, you might just kind of loosen up and give up. So the mental toughness and the hold muscles contracted for a long period of time, that it has a huge crossover in jiu-jitsu. My caveat is, now, if we talk about bodybuilding training, like I usually talk about, hey, we're talking about muscle building training, right? We're trying to focus on building muscle. Now, that's fine, and I think that's great for jiu-jitsu. I think what people run into is like when they take time off jiu-jitsu, they build muscle, and then they go back to jiu-jitsu, and their movement's all fucked up, and they're like, oh, it's because I built so much muscle. No, it's because you spent so much time off the mat. Your mobility is probably not where it needs to be from a jiu-jitsu standpoint. Your time and your tension, and that's not like a bodybuilding program's fault. That's your fault because you're out of shape for jiu-jitsu because you haven't been training jiu-jitsu. And the other thing that you hear a lot is you like train like an athlete, don't train like a bodybuilder. Now, and usually when they say this, they show a bunch of like plyometrics or jumping exercises. I think there is a problem with like if you want to become more athletic, you have to keep doing athletic stuff. So if you just do a full bodybuilding program and you're not training through a large range of motion, you're not doing the fundamental movement patterns like squats, deadlifts, lunges, if you're not doing power or speed exercises like plyometrics and medicine ball throws, yeah, and you don't do that, of course you're gonna get unathletic. But if you do some bodybuilding type exercises, programs, you add some power, you're training through a large range of motion, that is a great program for strength and condition for jiu-jitsu.